everyone. Welcome everyone to the Founders Forum for the Capital Readiness Cohort, Zane Access's signature program. We're so excited you're here. You're clearly in the room because you are partners of Zane, you're friends of Zane, you've been in the cohort, and we want to hear from you all, and are excited for this brand new cohort that we'll be bringing on. So with this great event ahead of us, we have a great lineup. And like I said earlier, I'm Devika. I'm with Zane Access. I'm on the board and just really excited to kick off this event. So I'm going to get right into it. We have an awesome evening planned for you. And of course, we're a little behind, but I think we'll be just fine with the kind of quality of speakers and conversations we're going to have today. So thank you so much for being here. So you can see we have a packed agenda. We're really excited to welcome Mr. Ryan Wilson with the Gathering Spot, the CEO and co-founder. If you're an ATL, which I remember in the chat, a lot of you are from, you know, this is a great place. If you're in LA or DC, another great footprint of the Gathering Spot. So we're really excited to hear his story on how this idea came to life, what he went through to raise capital with his co-founder, and where are they now? And we're so excited to welcome them. Along with them, we'll have Stefan Miller, one of our cohort grads with Young King Hair Care. If you're here, wave, raise your hand, and then there he is. And then we also have Christy McKinn-Flynn with Go Coach, who's been having some amazing stats, and we can't wait to hear both of their stories. Great industries they're working in, B2B, B2C, so looking forward to this story. And then we're going to kick it off with Sig Mosley and Shyla, who needs no introduction, but is also the founder and general partner of Zane Access and Zane Venture Fund, and Sig Mosley, who is one of I think the biggest angel investor in the Southeast, who has a really great eye for those companies that are going to be the disruptors of tomorrow. So, I already introduced them. Here's my next slide, guys. So you're going to hear a little bit more from Sig, and Shyla will be leading our founder chat with Ryan, and just we were so excited to welcome everybody. Before we dive into our great speakers, I know you want to hear their story. I do too. A little bit about the cohort and what we're doing this year. It kicks off on March 31st, so that means it's right around the corner. So we are excited to welcome new companies into the Capital Readiness Cohort. As you can see, we have quite a schedule for you. So in this cohort, we will be welcoming, you will get all the things you need to know about pitching, building a personal brand, talking to VCs, raising capital. How do you get started? What is it that you need to know? The legal advice, the finance advice. I'm going dizzy just thinking about all the things you have to think about. So I'm so glad you have this cohort. I'm so glad you have this curriculum. And this will be and you'll be ready to go. And what we're really excited about as well as the graduation will be with our keynote, Tope Awotona, founder and CEO of Calendly. How many people use Calendly? So you know exactly what we're talking about. So you can see if you're part of the cohort, this is what you have to look forward to, and this will definitely help you on your entrepreneurial journey as you start to raise capital. An exciting partnership we're so excited about for 2022. We have a partnership with Shopify. We thank them so much for their investment with Zane Access. Our cohort grads who are building e-commerce companies will have the opportunity to receive seed funding from Shopify towards their startup, as well as an opportunity to receive seed money from the Community Foundation of Greater Atlanta. So we're really wanting to empower our founders, not only with the education behind raising capital, but something to get them started along the way. So thank you so much to Shopify, as well as Community Foundation of Greater Atlanta. What you have to look forward to, some amazing speakers and mentors in our cohort. They are so cool, and there are so many that we couldn't fit all of them on a slide or their names. So part of being in the cohort is you have to figure out who they are. Just kidding. We will be, you'll be hearing from Kelly Jones, Emma Silverman, Marlon Nichols, who are experts in finance, in VC, in legal, and also building your brand. All the things you need to make sure that you are ready to get out there and pitch and make that dream come to life. So we're really excited to welcome them into the cohort in that huge calendar of events that you just saw. And And nothing is without stats. And as we have seen a lot of success behind our amazing cohort grads, I'm handing this over to Sig Mosley, our great mentor partner, who's going to talk about not only the getting ready for capital, but why mentorship is so important. So off to you, Sid.
Okay, thank you. This is Zane Asset, third cohort, and we are excited to welcome you to it. But why should you go through a cohort? What does it bring to you? Raising capital is important for any founder, and you got to know how to raise it. You got to be able to meet the right investors, and you got to be able to get the right mentors to be able to guide you in that process. And as you go through that process, you will learn how to grow your venture. We are proud of the work that our founders have done and continue to do after they graduate. They have raised over $7 million in capital. They have created jobs. They have built relationships with mentors and investors, and 89% of those still use their mentors. And you'll see here in addition that they have generated over $3 million in revenue. They an 86% program referral rate, and the participant express additional capital needs in 70% of the cases. This is a great opportunity to participate, to learn some business leaders, investors who share what you need to know on how to raise capital, and to meet mentors who will help you along your entrepreneurial journey. We have many mentors, and we have many investors who are here to help you. You will hear tonight from our cohort graduate who will share their founder story, how they raised capital, and what they learned along the way. You will also hear their story about how going through the cohort prepared them to raise capital. This is an important program, and we are glad that you have joined us here this evening. And I encourage all of you to apply to be a part of the cohort. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Diva.
Thanks, Sig. We're so excited, and thank you for sharing those great stats. As you guys can see, the cohort means business, literally. So we are excited for you all to participate. If you have participated or considering applying, we are doubling down on that. When founders are capital ready, they can actually grow their business. And we're really excited to welcome our cohort 3. So let's hear from the people who've actually been through it rather than me just reading a slide maybe, right? So we're excited to welcome Stefan Miller of Young King Hair Care, who is a grad of one of our cohorts, and interviewing him is Naoma. I'm so sorry, Naoma. I was trying to make sure I knew your last name, but you're gonna have to help me out. But you can be like Beyonce. You can be a one-name superstar. You're Naoma. She is our Scholars in Residence. It is a great program that we actually have in Zane Access that actually is a 3-month internship that allows students in college to become to get behind the scenes of becoming a VC and not just a founder, because we also have to make sure that the people who are investing are also being built. So we're excited to bring her into as a scholar in residence for this year. She is a finance major at Georgia State University, and she's been doing some great work already, and we're excited to see what she's going to do for the rest of her time with us. She is going to be leading an interview with Stefan Miller, and I'm going to hand it over to you, Naoma, to introduce Stefan and get to your fireside chat.
Thank you. Hi, Stefan. It's great to meet you. A big fan of your company and everything that you're doing with the community. So to kind of start us off, could you tell us a little bit about your business and how it started and what problem you were specifically trying to solve?
Yeah, most definitely. Good to see you, and definitely excited to be here as part of the program. So yeah, we founded Young King Hair Care with my wife Cora back in 2019. So it's kind of funny. I know most people are already probably thinking that I'm listening to a bald-headed guy with a hair care company, so why should I trust you? So we will get that out of the way, that it's okay. I'm trying to save people from this status. But we started out the brand honestly because of our son. Our son Kay was born with a head full of hair, and I was surprised that even though it had been many moons since I had went down the hair care aisle, that there was truly no innovation in the space. As we think about the journey, natural hair care journey that we have gone in largely as people, but then as we think about men, grooming is just a new option for us. And we thought that, given the importance of self-care and self-esteem, that we wanted our son to feel represented and seen in the products that he used. So that was a little bit of our founder story. It started, everybody always starts with their why, and ours was our son. And he's kind of taken us on a journey as our chief inspiration officer since then.
Wow, that's such a heartwarming story. And I think that's such an amazing just story to have, especially with a business that's very important, like within the community. And so with that being said, I'm kind of curious, how did you start funding your business? Did you bootstrap, or did you start raising funds right away?
I don't even know if you can call it bootstrapping. Whatever is below bootstrapping, that's what we're sneakering it. But no, we definitely started. We started on our own, definitely bootstrap. We both my wife and I, we actually worked in corporate. So we wanted to make sure that we actually tested out the concept before we fully dove in. We put a lot of our own. We kind of wiped out our savings to go and develop the products, manufacture it before we had sold anything. But we honestly had so much conviction in the idea and the role that, that we had to play in the community, right? Beyond just a simple hair care product, but what we could do to uplift Black and brown boys. And we started there. So yeah, we bootstrapped the company probably for about the first year to year and a half. And that was that was since launch, but before that, even when we were developing the brand for about a year, was completely bootstrapping and doing the business full time in addition to our full-time jobs.
Wow. The balance.
A lot of head nods. I know everybody is like, don't cut the corporate check too soon.
Also kind of curious as well. So how did you know when it was time to actually start finding outside investors?
Yeah, no, I think it's a critical moment, right? I think in a lot of brands, I think a lot of people fall in love with the sexy of raising capital. Let's go raise money because I want to have an article. I want to see these things. And that's never the right time to do it, right? It's the right time to say, when can I go invest into my business? And when is that going to unlock another level of growth for us? So for us, we were extremely fortunate that, within a month of launching the brand, we were selected as part of Target Accelerator program. So we were one of 10 brands out of 450. And I will tell anybody listening, like, never be afraid to shoot your shot, because everybody was like, you just launched. We literally met Target reps the very first day we launched the brand at a trade show event. And we were ready when we showed up. And we were in a room that we probably shouldn't have been in. And we've made sure to always keep that seat really warm and take care of that while we've been there. So for us, we went through that program and we realized that we had an opportunity and we were most likely going to get an opportunity to launch into retail. It wasn't something that was originally on our plan that soon, but my background comes largely from working at large CPGs. So we always knew we built the brand to scale, and we knew how do we have the components for that. So it was at that time when we really said, hey, we need to step beyond just ourselves, but then we also need to partner with experts. I think a lot of times people focus on raising funds, but then also don't really have a clear knowledge base of how they want to use them. And we realized that we needed help in team, we needed inventory, we needed to make sure that our supply chain and our back end was extremely set up so that these partnerships and opportunities we were getting, we could maximize them, and we were showing up with the best foot forward. So, we decided this was probably about middle of the year in 2020. And I actually remember giving Shyla a call because I was like, Shyla, I need your help. And then she literally told me, what she had been cooking up with the Zane Access. She's like, I actually have a new initiative that's coming specifically for that. And I think that was the start of my journey in the inaugural cohort along the way.
Wow. I really love your story because I'm also a big fan of shooting your shot. And it sounds like you were very, very prepared as soon as like the opportunity started pouring in. So like props to you on that.
Closed mouth doesn't get fed. Closed mouth never gets fed. So you got to always put yourself in that opportunity because you never know who's sitting across the table, a Zoom from you, or somebody that can help you out. And I think so many times as founders, we get in our own ways that we live and breathe our idea, but it's also our job to share our idea with the world. That's our gift that we got to give. So you got to always be out there. Never be afraid of a no. No's only make you stronger in everything that you do.
Exactly. Love that. Be your own advocate. But I do have one more question for you. So tell us about your company now. So where is it in terms of growth and scale?
Yeah, it is crazy. The trajectory. We've been very fortunate as a company. And I think, like I can honestly say this, that, the program truly prepared us for a lot of things. So we knew a lot of things from a marketing side. But the journey we were going to need to go on to truly scale the business was one that we didn't know anything about. We didn't know anything about raising. We didn't know anything to get us there. So, it's been phenomenal where, we've been in business for just over 2 years now. We went through a successful seed round raise. We're getting ready to ramp up for a Series A because growth has been that good. But I think when we got into the cohort, we probably had made, I don't know, $30,000 as a brand, 40,000 maybe at that time. And, last year we closed out close to $3 million in revenue. We've been fortunate where I was like, we're going to have to update that front sheet. Those are almost my numbers now. So we're going to have to up that number, Shyla. So yeah, we did that where, we operate on as a direct to consumer brand first to build that authenticity, obviously with our audience, but we're fortunate where we have 1,500 doors of retail partnership with Target and Walmart. So, we've been able to continue to expand there. We just increased distribution and got expanding it to even more stores just because when we got there, we showed up and we were ready for it. So it has been a blessing. I think, as we look at it, we always talk about the business as purpose over profits, right? And the community effort, what we see is, we deliver Black boy joy in a bottle. Right. But the role of being able to see young Black men to be themselves, to have the confidence to show up, be themselves, that's what we're really doing. And that community calling is so bigger than any revenue number I could throw out. But just to see how many like thousands and hundreds of thousands of lives that we've already started to impact, and we're only in year 2. So it's super exciting to say that you may start by not knowing something and not being an expert fully, but as founders, you got to realize where do you surround yourself with strong advocates? Where do you surround yourself with people that know things? So it's going to be super fun. And then I'll shameless plug. I'll tell everybody to follow us on Instagram because we will have some very exciting news next week that will lead into a little bit of what I just shared.
What's your handle? What's the handle?
At Young King Hair Care. I'll drop it in the chat after we finish talking so I don't trip over everything.
We did it for you.
Thank you. But
Emma, do you have any questions for more questions, or can we start taking some from the chat?
Yeah, so those are all the questions I have on my end. We can definitely take some questions from the chat.
Great. So Stefan, we have a couple questions. Our first question comes from Christian Ross. Who were your first hires and why did you choose those roles first?
Oh, very, very good question. Very first team besides my wife, because you got to keep a happy home. And she actually hired me. But I would say that our very first hire was actually a supply chain operations consultant. So again, I think we look and we think a lot about what people see. But for us, especially as a direct to consumer brand, how do I make sure that I get it to them in the most efficient and safe way possible? A lot of times we think so much about the front end without properly investing in the back end. And for us, we wanted to make sure from warehousing, from manufacturing, that we were set up and that we could mitigate any issues that could potentially come. So that was differential for us. It allowed us to better plan our business. One of the things that You'll actually learn in a cohort that will play a big role too is cash flow, right? So by being smarter on our back end, we could hold less inventory on hand, which freed up more cash to go do marketing and go do other things. So supply chain and operations, especially if you're a physical goods company, is critical to you, because otherwise you'll be sitting with a lot of inventory and dollars sitting on pallets early on. So that really helped us to optimize.
I love it. Supply chain has been a hot topic lately, hasn't it been? Another question from Kristen Dunning. And just for the interest of time, we won't be taking all the questions because we want to make sure we hear from everyone. And so we'll take this as the last question. We can pose some of them to you, Stefan, and maybe we can circle back on them.
Yeah, and I'll jump in the chat afterwards too. Happy to answer them.
Great. So the question is from Kristen Dunning. You say you met your buyers at a trade show. How would you suggest making natural connections with buyers while trade shows are limited due to COVID?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I think it's, what's your adaptability of your brand, right? I think it's very interesting, and I'll give you a little bit of two sides of the coin. We met our target buyer on the first day where we did a trade show. When we got our Walmart relationship, they actually called us because they followed the brand, and the buyer had a son and followed our story and knew what we stood for. So I think first and foremost, the thing that you always have to do is make sure that you're showing up authentically for your brand and you're living that brand and that ethos all the time. Secondly, I would say is make sure you're ready, right? And when we talk about being ready, a lot of people, again, don't live and take your brand to places that you don't, if that's not your desire. So many people fall into the A, B, or C. Buyers are usually sometimes very difficult to find. One of the things that I would recommend is usually reaching out to supplier diversity contacts at those organizations. They usually are very active, especially on LinkedIn or even on their main pages. Supplier diversity is a lot that's usually bringing in and help to source and get you to that right connection. Other things, if you're considering retail, you should look into broker relationships. So there are various groups that have partnerships with various retailers that can help support you once you go through the ideas. And the broker relationship is a great one because they don't make money if you don't make money. Their job is to help sell you and help to get you in the door. So they're incentivized to get you prepped and ready for that. So if you're looking up any retailer that you're looking up, consider looking up brokerage groups that usually is comprised of employees that used to work at said retailer. And they are a great way to be able to onboard and to get into some of these retailers and to talk to understand what some of those retail strategies are.
That's great. We are going to thank you so much for your time, Naoma. Great interview. Thank you so much. Just to make sure we have enough time, Stefan, what a great story. Definitely gave all of us some great gems to go on as we build our businesses, build our brands. Any questions? He said he was going to jump in the chat. Make sure you follow them on IG for some really good news apparently coming next week. We're so excited to get the teaser. And thank you so much. And we are so excited. Thank you again. And moving to our next cohort, speaker, I'm excited to welcome, Christian, please be nice to me if I mess up your last name. Christian Guiadalor, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He is also one of our scholars in residence alongside like Naoma. And he is working on his master's in sociology and organizational leadership from Stanford University. We're quite lucky to have him as well. And he will be having a quick chat with Christy McCann Flynn, who is a cohort whose company Go Coach was also a ZaneAccess cohort company and is also now a portfolio company. So we're really excited to welcome Christy to the chat. And I'm going to let you take it away, Christian.
Thank you so much, Tabitha, and I'm really excited to be with you all today. Christy has 15 years of experience as a strategic human resource leader, change manager, and organizational development expert. She has served in senior leadership positions throughout her career, most notably with Pearson Education and Constant Contact. Christy brings a big picture perspective with a hands-on tactical approach to leadership that she is now bringing to life with Go Coach. where she is the CEO and co-founder. And to further shout out Go Coach, they recently raised $3.5 million. So congratulations on that.
Thank you,
Christy's
Christian.
goal is to help educate companies to meet their ultimate goals by empowering their employees to take ownership over their careers. Really honored to be able to meet you today, Christy. Thank you so much for being here.
Likewise, thank you, Christian, and hello, everybody.
So for my first question, tell us about your business, Go Coach, and how it started.
Yeah, sure. So as you mentioned, I'm a former HR executive, and to be quite honest, I started Go Coach out of anger. We just continued to throw people out left and right. And we have these negative monikers of war on talent, skill shortage, great resignation. Well, guess what? We caused that problem. And so instead of banging my head against the wall as another, CHRO at another company with the same problems, but, no return or reward, I created Go Coach essentially to meet the learners where they're at and the buyers where they're at, which is a B2B SaaS upskilling platform that provides blended learning with our coach marketplace and learning experience platform, entry level to executive level and hard and soft skills. We manage all the workflow administration for all the different types of users, the coach, the coachee, the manager, and stakeholder. And we get to those change behavior outcomes. And what that means is that what you're learning, you're actually applying and it's working. And so, we're kind of like a flipped learning management system. We're providing learning, workflow administration, and actually getting to that change behavior ROI. So in summary, it was a really good midlife crisis of, not going back to corporate and actually starting something for people to have a safe and supported place to be able to learn and grow.
Thank you so much for sharing. How did you start funding your business? Was it initially through bootstrapping or did you seek funding right away?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Well, the first thing I did was I took my husband at the time over to Central Park with a nice, whiskey and told him that I was taking all the money out of our retirement. And I just had an exit with Constant Contact to where, as an HR person, actually helped them get to a sale with Endurance International for over $1 billion. So I had a nice sliver of the pie with that. So I put everything that I had in our retirement plus, that exit as a, CHRO into Go Coach. And so it was roughly over $500,000. And we just really start to put up the scaffolding as to, what the product is and isn't going to do, what the go-to-market strategy is, a lot of the prototype and the testing and the use cases and really just getting out there. And so we launched it in mid 2018 at a conference and came home with our first customer, and we didn't even have a platform, but we had a will and we had a way, and we did it. And we did that for the last 3.5 years. So when I actually did start to go out to raise capital, it was probably right around the time that I got accepted to Zane. And I, credit Zane to a lot of that because, when you go into it, like I know my forte, I know business, I know upskilling, like, I know that everything I learned from Zane was really about, the overall operations, the critical thinking, how to scale, really preparing yourself, not just for investors, but really how to build your business. And so it was right after that graduation that I started to raise capital and doors really started to open. We were bringing in the revenue, which was, a great thing because that's especially what investors want to see. But now I actually felt comfortable and kind of got rid of a lot of imposter syndrome, of not knowing what I didn't know that Zane helped, to answer, but also being like, more confident and, having the footing. And so, Zane to me was a huge coach throughout this process.
Thank you so much for that. And I kind of want to lean in a little bit to what you said about building confidence and kind of overcoming that imposter syndrome. Because I know for myself, I battle with that often. When did you realize you wanted to start funding and how did you prepare Go Coach and how did you prepare for yourself as that process began?
Yeah, with the funding, it was a matter of practicality and opportunity, to be quite candid. We were doing really well as a very scrappy team of essentially me and my co-founder and, another part-time employee. We understood every single avenue of the business to what we were building, the why, what was working as far as the sales, what was working as far as the marketing. And it was really about the stretch, the scale, and knowing that we had the opportunity to do that. And that was exhilarating, right? It's not just about seeing your name out there, it's actually seeing people using your product and like it. And we, even before the raise, we had 100% adoption and retention of all of our customers. And that was exciting. We were onto something. So I didn't want something to break because we weren't prepared for it. We didn't have enough people. And so it was really about expanding, what we were doing and making it even better with a lot more people. And then identifying, the gaps that we did have and how we were able to, build that bridge as we continue to learn and grow. And so, it's still an exhilarating process. It was painful at times. I'm not going to lie. Fundraising is not fun. A lot of times because you're trying to build a business and, sometimes you feel like you're spending more time with investors than you are with your team. But I have a really good, strong co-founder, Rebecca, who, we really divided and conquered to what she needed to do to grow the business and what I needed to do to be able to illuminate that for people that see it.
Thank you so much for that. It seems like Go Coach is almost prophetic in its ability to respond to our labor markets and the great resignation that is happening right now. Tell us more about your business goals for this year and for 2023 as well.
Yeah, our whole goal is to make sure everyone out there, all walks of life, everyone has access to upskilling. It shouldn't just be for, the privileged and the executive C-suites. In fact, half the times the executive C-suites don't need it. They're not as coachable. So it's about preparing our next generation, to be able to have the skills, to be able to apply in the workforce, to work better, to work smarter, to be more productive, to be able to, have that engagement, to be retaining your employees, for it to be a much, diverse and happier workplace where people are able to talk through problems and, not be in this, divided way that we are right now. It's about building business acumen and leadership skills. And it's about building dexterity, to be able to work with anyone and be able to problem solve and critically think again. Social media killed all critical thinking and inference. We're trying to bring it back, to apply in the workplace. And so it's really important for us to continue. And so we just launched Go Coach for All, which is essentially making Go Coach affordable and accessible for every company out there, whether you have 500K in revenue or you have $1 billion in revenue. We're making it affordable and accessible so everyone has access to upskilling. And it's not just point in time, it's very evergreen and it's applicable and relatable to what you're doing in your career now, and then what you're going to be doing in your career tomorrow. Because that's half the beast with learning. It's just what's in it for me? What is this really going to mean to me at the end of the day? The other big initiative is that we're tapping into higher ed, because we all know that collegiate to the workforce is a complete disaster. And so we're targeting online university, state schools, and community colleges, especially for the underserved and underrepresented, to be able to give them that skills and those backgrounds to be able to succeed within their career. And so those are the big things that we're doing. And so right now we have at least 6.5 million bookings ARR that we're hoping to accomplish just on the workforce development side. And then we've launched 2 higher ed initiatives with the University of Phoenix and with WGU. And if everything goes well, maybe we can have a 10 million a year. We're going to see, but we're off to a great start. And I'm just happy that it's not just about having a business, it's making sure your business works, and we could see it working by the people taking the learning, applying it, and coming back. And that's the biggest value add right there.
Christian, if you have any questions left for Christy, or should we start taking them from chat?
I think we can go ahead and move to the chat.
Okay, great. We have a couple of questions, and and this is really interesting because right now we had a B2C company to talk, and now we have a B2B. So one of the first questions we have is, how much traction did you have when you decided to raise?
Yep. We were just shy of $1 million on a 12 months, starting point, because it's historicals here are important. When the onset of COVID came, we gave away the platform for free. I'm the former buyer. I was not selling in an HR when the world was on fire. So instead we gave away the platform for free, and, we were able to help over 1,000 employees, close to 20 companies. That was just a plan that we had, to be able to get Go Coach out there. And it ended up becoming a great marketing plan. So the give back plan really ended up becoming a marketing plan, because all those customers started to convert, in the second half of 2020. And so, we were roughly shy of, a 12-month run of $1 million. And that's when, I really start to hit the go button, that not only do we need the raise, because we're getting too big, and we're seeing the conversions, but we were expanding. And so we haven't lost a customer in 3 years, and they continue to expand further within the organization. And so it was also about that. It wasn't just new logos. It was about that retention. And I'm happy I did it, because I think a lot of times, especially, underserved and underrepresented women and LGBTQ, Black, brown. Yeah, it is harder for us to raise. And so my way of looking at it is that I'm going to show you the money. And that's what I did. And once you show them the money, it makes a much easier case to raise, rather than showing them a theoretical potential, And so that's what I doubled down on, because I was looking at my long-term goal. I want everybody to have access to upskilling, and I'm not going to change, assumptions and people's lack of diversity overnight. But what I can do is educate people. So the next generation is not as biased as to where we are right now. So I kept focused on that goal, and I got to that $1 million, and that made it much easier.
Oh, what a great marketing plan as someone in marketing. I appreciate that. So we have a couple more questions. We're going to take one more, and any other questions, I'm sure Christy will stick around and maybe can answer them in chat. Sorry to just offer that up. But, so one of the questions we had, you sort of answered this in your questions. One is how did you attract your first few customers? And then it's, like I said, it's one big question. Have you hired any sales staff yet? And how did you sell to an enterprise without a product? So one big question, but kind of the same.
So how did we attract our first customers? Me and my co-founder, she's former HR too. We were the former buyers. We knew the pain points, and guess what? I could finally say them and not have to worry about getting yelled at by a CEO of speaking the truth that everybody wanted to scuttle underneath the rug. So we were really triggering with our content marketing a lot of the pain points that, were there even before COVID, and then COVID just exacerbated them. Right. And so they saw that. And so we were really built for HR by HR. And so we were able to get people, locked in quick, because we weren't, no offense to anybody from Silicon Valley, but we weren't a Silicon Valley shiny toy. We had learned from experience. I threw out more HR tech in my 20-year career than I actually bought, because it didn't work. Right. And so we were able to build that trust and that foundation really quickly and show that it worked. And so when we sold into, enterprise, that was actually easier than selling in the mid-market, because I remember when I brought in coaching, when I was at Pearson Education, we had acquired 6 companies, everybody was new, new leaders morphing together. It was a complete disaster, right? One of the biggest things I had to do was, bring in coaches for a lot of the senior leadership and the mid-levels as we were converging together, and bring in training and development. I had to do that manually. Okay. It was awful. I must have interviewed over 100 coaches that I had to seek, find, interview, and then put in front. So it didn't matter that we didn't have a system. All that mattered was we were doing it for them, right? That's the best sell. Take away the painful work, so other people don't have to do it. So the fact that we were managing, our early customers on Google Sheets didn't matter. They didn't have to do it. And they were still getting that return on it. And then as far as building a sales team, we just started to build our sales team in Q3 and Q4, and now they're all actively selling and they're doing really well. We gave them a quarter ramp. And so me and Rebecca, we knew we had huge Q4 goals to meet, but it was also very important to make sure that we were giving our new employees the best success possible. And so we were really with them throughout the entire Q4 process, every single deal, being with them so they can not only understand our position and our point of view and why we're better, but it's about honing those listening and critical thinking skills. It's about coaching. And so, we're having a great, start to the year, very excited. And we're going to continue to double down that capacity. I don't need 1,000 salespeople to sell Go Coach. I need really good salespeople that want to learn and grow, and to be able to show that value. And so to me, less is more. And I want to be able to provide that opportunity to everybody that comes on board.
Oh, great answer. Christian, do you have any last questions for Christy?
I don't have any last questions, but thank you so much, Christy. I speak for myself, but perhaps others when I say that I learned a lot about business today, but your passion for Go Coach was quite inspiring as well. So thank you for your energy as well. Devika, I'll give the floor back to you.
All right, thank you. Well, you guys, both Stefan and Christy, thank you so much. You guys definitely lit our chat on fire. You're definitely inspiring a lot of founders. And with that, we are really excited to welcome our keynote speaker tonight. I'm so excited to welcome Mr. Ryan Wilson of The Gathering Spot. How many of you here have been to The Gathering Spot or heard of The Gathering Spot? I know all those hands are raised. I can see them. Well, we're really excited to welcome Ryan Wilson. He is a co-founder and CEO of The Gathering Spot, a private membership club that serves as a hub for collaboration connections in Atlanta, Georgia, and is expanding across the nation. And I'm really excited about this conversation. I'm going to hand it off to Ms. Shyla Nieves-Burney, who will lead this great peer-to-peer founder chat. And we're really excited to welcome Ryan. So take it away, Shyla.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, this is exciting for me. If you know me, I'm at The Gathering Spot a couple of days a week. Everywhere, anyone who's visiting Atlanta, I'm saying you have to go to The Gathering Spot on your visit. It is a place of culture, creativity, and then community. And so I'm just really excited to have Ryan here. Ryan is a busy person. They have now not only Atlanta, but connected cities. And so it's just a great opportunity to have just a moment on his schedule to kind of talk about what they're doing over at The Gathering Spot and how all of this came about, and now how they're all in different cities across the country. So, hey, Ryan, how's it going?
Hey, everybody. It's an honor to be here. It's always humbling when folks say that they are a member of the club or visited the club. So thank you sincerely. Before we jump in and talk about anything, I appreciate it.
For sure. I mean, the grits, Sig and I eat grits every, Monday, Sig. It's our thing to do. So, but Ryan, so The Gathering Spot is, and I know that so many people ask me, especially now, businesses are wanting to know The Gathering Spot. So why did it become such an important part of Atlanta's culture and what it provides to entrepreneurs and creatives? Tell us about how you all got started, you and TK.
Yeah, so I'll go all the way back to the beginning. We had no anticipation of ever starting a business with one another. So TK is my business partner. We were roommates in college, and we're pursuing different paths. I wanted to be an attorney my entire life. He had a dream of working on Wall Street, and so we were actually in different parts of the school for our entire time. We went to school in DC, and true to kind of our plan, I went to law school immediately after graduating. I was there, y'all, because to me, when I looked at folks that were doing good work in the community, many of them had law degrees. And so that was a simple objective my entire life. If you would have asked me at age 5 or 15, I would have told you being an attorney is for me because that's the way that I'm going to drive impact. It wasn't until I got to a law firm between my 1L and 2L years that I found out quickly that this dream that I had really just wasn't appealing. I was working for a really awesome attorney in town, but just couldn't connect to the experience at all. But what was happening that summer, and I'll make a long story short, but what was happening was the Trayvon Martin case. And so George Zimmerman was acquitted of Trayvon Martin's murder. I had been doing a lot of community organizing work in DC, and I got an email from some of those friends that said, hey, what are we going to do in response? And I responded back to them with the idea of building a place where we could have that conversation. And then I thought have whatever conversation we wanted from there. And next day I sent TK an email and said, hey, I need you to build a model around this idea that I have. He never responded to my email. If you ever see him, ask him why He never actually said anything to my email ever, but we started to meet in my apartment in DC every day. And that was about a 3-year journey. So this is 2013. We didn't open TGS in Atlanta until 2016, but every day our goal was to just try to take a step. And so we would meet in the evenings after he was finished with work and I was done with school, and try to put the plan together.
Okay. And what was that plan? What problem were you trying to solve? I know it was a very sort of, the climate at that time, we were all trying to figure out what we could do differently so this sort of incident doesn't happen again.
I think one of the ways that we are maybe misunderstood at TGS is that while we build physical spaces, I have always been fascinated with the idea of community building. What happens when people that ordinarily wouldn't meet have a chance and a context and proximity to be able to do so. And so that's what we were working on. I mean, we saw the rise of co-working during this time. DC was about 2 or 3 co-working spaces in. And so our thesis was, what is it like to take what we're seeing in this new emerging market of workspaces where people go, and then combine it with the traditional model of a private club, bringing the physical elements together, but more importantly, do it in a way where people would be centered at the entire through the entire experience. We also saw that there were some opportunities in terms of the diversity of both of those sort of spaces, private clubs certainly, but then even some of the workspaces that we're developing. So our mind was, if we over-index, welcome everyone, but if we over-index in making sure folks that traditionally have maybe been tolerated in these spaces are really celebrated within our context, that'll be the thing that is the differentiator. And fortunate to say that I'm skipping over raising capital, which I'm happy to talk about.
We're going to get into that right now. That's the next question I'm going to ask you, because you have this brilliant idea, and most of the time you need capital to kind of see those ideas through. So when did you and TK decide to start raising? Did you bootstrap at all? Like, what was that journey like for you?
So the first call there, so many people don't know this. There were 4 of us in the beginning. So TK and I have been doing this the entire time, but there were 2 other folks. And we made a call to the group one day, and we're like, look, we think everybody's going to need to put in some money to make this thing a reality. We've got some costs. This is starting to feel a little bit expensive. So everybody needs to come with, and I think the first thing that we asked for was $5,000 for everybody. And that was a lot of money. I mean, like that was really like all of our money. But we said, look, we're going to have to put all of our chips to the center. And 2 folks dropped out at the beginning of the process. And so it was only TK and I that put in that initial capital. So that was the first capital in the business. From there, we went through a really painful process of being told no. We counted because we're competitive, but it was 97 times before the first person said yes. Wow. And a lot of terrible no's, y'all. I mean, I've been in the hotel lobby of every place in Atlanta, waiting on folks that sometimes did show up, sometimes didn't show up. But we got better, right? We didn't know 97 people to talk to. We would let folks reject us and then ask them to refer us to somebody else that probably was also going to reject us. But we just kept going, right? I mean, I had this belief then and now, right, that if you're seeing something that's disruptive, if it's a crack in the market, that folks really shouldn't understand it quickly. And so when folks told us, we don't believe it, we don't see it, you're saying that folks are going to eat and go to events and like they're going to work in the same place and that you're going to do all these programs. Like, what are you talking about? That actually over time started to give us confidence, as cliche as it sounds, that we were seeing an opportunity because so many people that we respected, many folks around town that we knew and loved and that were successful in business were telling us no, in, again, sometimes very painful ways, but it built a muscle that, we just needed to keep going on. We would find the right person. It ended up being 5 people in our first round. Our first round was a little over 3 million. And that number was also kind of a moving target. First round, we first thought it was $1 million. We kept going. Then we thought it was 2. I was really scared when I got the $2 million number. I was scared at 1, but 2 was really humbling. And then the designers came back and said, look, to get this thing done, it's probably going to be a little north of 3 million. And so this was not a TechCrunch article in terms of the way that we were funded. It was ugly. I mean, like, need 400,000, raise 400,000. I mean, this is the ultimate of rolling closes that happened. We were not funded and then went out into the world. I mean, it was us trying to make all the trains come in on time.
Mm.
You said something earlier that I want to piggyback on, and that is people not like doubting your idea. What kind of advice would you give entrepreneurs in our audience about that? Because we all run against someone who says this isn't going to work. And how do you kind of overcome that to reaffirm that this is what you are going to be doing?
So I think it's a part of the process that you have to embrace, right? And know that, again, that if it's something interesting that you're working on, let those folks not have your vision. I also think that you have to realize that the thing that you're working on is not random, right? It is yours uniquely for a reason. And so you've got to be a good steward of whatever that concept is. I'm not saying don't be responsive to folks' feedback. I mean, we would incorporate the things that we were hearing, but I wouldn't internalize them. I didn't let a lot of times what felt like fear in other people stop us from continuing to go on. I mean, I just wasn't willing. I needed to see if we were going to lose and it was going to be a flop. I needed to experience that in order to fully believe it. Otherwise, I was just going to be listening to folks' opinions that weren't spending the same amount of time on this like I was. I mean, at a certain point in my life, I mean, I was in law school and I was trying to build a gathering spot. I had nothing else going on. So someone that looked at it for 5 minutes that told me that it wasn't going to work, unfortunately, like that just wasn't going to be the thing that could take us off track. I mean, I respected what the folks were saying, but I definitely didn't internalize it. And still to this day, filter. I mean, I hear it. I'll wrestle with it. I'll reflect on what you said, but I'm not going to ultimately let it be the determining factor if we decide to do anything, you know, going in any direction inside of the company.
Yeah, I love that. The fear and then the filter. I mean, I think not letting the fear get to you and then having a filter when you get that sort of feedback. I think that's critically important. I'm going to remember that for myself. How have you been able to pivot TGS to keep innovating, especially with a growing city like ours? And I know you have your connected cities and that sort of stuff. And I don't know if that was part of your pivot as well.
Pivoting is interesting, right? In many ways, we had to do what a lot of folks did. We had to go online and think about new ways to connect folks. But the conversation that was consistent with our team was, hey, look, if we go back to the reason why we're here, we're fundamentally here to try to connect and be helpful to folks, right? If you just on a really simple level. And so if that's the mission, what setting, right? The setting it shifted, right? The club is closed. We can't do gatherings in the way that we historically have. But like this, just because the setting has shifted doesn't mean that the work can't continue. I mean, I think what we're doing tonight is evidence of that same principle. We could gather in person, and I'm sure at one point in the future, we will be able to do this in a different way, right? But just because the setting has shifted doesn't mean that you can't meet somebody great in here tonight, right? And so I just tried to keep an optimistic, why did I get started in this thing in the first place? As we know, as entrepreneurs, there are a number of challenges, right? And so, I mean, this was a big one, but I had to tell COVID to kind of get in line with the rest. I mean, y'all, I spent 2 years of my life trying to figure out if I was going to I used to call TK on Mondays and say, TK, how much money do we need to make it till Friday? Right. And so when you live like we live as entrepreneurs and go through those really tough, like when you go through what a lot of times with our team call the crunch, this has to get in line with the rest of the problems that we've seen. Right. And so I had to try to, I mean, again, big wave, but like, it was a wave. It was just another thing that we were going to have to figure out how to experience. But what couldn't happen, this wasn't going to be the end of this journey. It was my mentality. Like we can't after all that's been accomplished and all that we've been able to kind of see happen. That I mean, at that time it was like a COVID, a Corona, what I don't even know what they're saying. This is absolutely not going to be the thing that is the end of the conversation for us. So we got to figure it out. Get in the room, keep chatting. It's going to be ugly, but like we've seen ugly. And so this can just get in line with the rest of the stuff that we've had to overcome. I know that sounds gladiator-like and, you know, like, but I think as entrepreneurs, we kind of have to live in that space, right? You've got to live in the impossible I mean, this whole thing really doesn't make sense on a certain level. If you think about starting anything, it's like, I mean, there are many days I could be a practicing attorney right now. There are many days where I would look at myself in the mirror and after I mean another part along this journey. I mean, I didn't pay myself anything for 17 months, right? And there were many days where I would see my friends that had just graduated from law school. At that time, the average salary coming out of law school was $180,000. They're living their best life, and my wife would ask me what I wanted for dinner, and I would say, whatever you want to eat for dinner, because I wasn't contributing anything to this household. I was just present, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense. So if we're going to do it, I think that we've got to make sure that we do it with the spirit that suggests that, like, we're going to figure out ways to be successful.
I love that. I love that. And then, yeah, we do have to be glad or like just for the things that we, confront on a daily basis that, are really trying to tear us down as an entrepreneur. So I love that perspective. So that you built these connected cities, and of course you have a huge brand here in Atlanta. How do you continue that brand from city to city without losing some of the mission and principles, the founding principles that you all have?
I'll be candid. It's really tough. I'm an Atlanta kid. I mean, I wanted to be here specifically because I think that Atlanta is one of the more important cities in the country right now, and saw that from my apartment in DC in 2013. I was like, just like Atlanta feels like it's next. There are a lot of great cities across the country. And it has been a listening tour, right? I try to make sure that when we go anywhere, first, like, even just that framework of like, we're arriving is not really how I encourage our team to think about it, right? We need to become a part of the communities that we're seeking to join. And that means listening and understanding who's there, what they've been building, how they've been building, and how we ultimately can be helpful to what's being built. And that humility, right, and understanding that we're not a part of this ecosystem has been the thing that's helped us gain traction. I mean, the club in DC is about as large as Atlanta is. It'll be a year old next month. So Atlanta goes 5 years before the first one for the next club opens. And then DC, because of the foundation that was built here, just grew really quickly. But like we had to listen. I mean, even today, I got feedback from somebody in DC that said, I mean, you did this event, but it didn't feel like local DC. It felt like the transplant version of DC. And our team had to really sit in and listen to that feedback and try to understand what he meant and are going to respond to it. I mean, it's really that simple. We just try to be good partners.
So you mentioned that Atlanta is the city of now, and I truly believe that myself. But what is your take on sort of the investment landscape here in Atlanta?
It's not mature yet. I mean, I think that we have to continue to keep the conversation and the pressure on. I mean, the ideas are here, right? I think that for a long time, folks would talk about Atlanta like it was like this real small, super Southern. We don't really understand, what's happening. I mean, it's just couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, folks here, we're building dynamic companies. I think that the way that we do it down here, the relationships that are formed, the culture actually makes. I mean, I think our biggest export in Atlanta is our culture more than anything else. And so, to the extent that we harness that and continue to talk about it, I think that capital will follow. We've seen. I'm not an incremental person, right? I think that like it's cool to see the benchmarks, but we're not there yet. I mean, we've got to continue to fight to make sure that that there is more and good capital in the ecosystem, and until we're there, I think that there's open conversation that we need to continue to push.
For sure. So what do you advise entrepreneurs here in the city who are raising capital, right? Particularly venture capital. What do you suggest for them? Do they go west, northeast? Like, how do we work? How do we encourage these entrepreneurs to stay here when the capital is still an issue?
So I think that you have to give Atlanta a fair shake, right? I mean, so this is a very different environment, even when we started 6-7 years ago, right? And trying to raise capital. So there's not nothing here. I mean, I think this conversation is evidence of the progress. But I think it's what COVID has opened up, right? What you used to hear folks out west say is I don't really look at Atlanta companies because I'm not willing to get on a plane and go to the board meeting, and like I don't want to go to Atlanta. Well, one of the ways that this new world has kind of changed and I think opened up access is that those same investors don't have that excuse and are frankly looking for deal flow. I mean, there's a ton of capital in the market right now, and so talk to these folks, but like make it be known that you're an Atlanta company and speak to why this city is important to your growth. I mean, we've got a huge concentration of Fortune 500 headquarters, amazing network of colleges and universities, a legitimate startup ecosystem now. And then I think the thing that makes us dangerous is our culture, right? The ability to take stuff here, ideas, and export it all over the world through music and film. That makes Atlanta really, really, dangerous on a global scale. And I think that we have to, again, talk about it in that way. You have an advantage in some instances, depending on what you're doing, by being here. And so talk to the folks out west or New York or wherever they are about how staying tied here, which is a thing that we didn't used to do. We would allow the company to move, right? I mean, a lot of our companies, it wasn't just they were being funded from out of state. They were then moving to other places. I don't think that that's as necessary anymore.
Okay. So that's a perfect segue before we open up for questions. A3C, what's happening this year? Any details you can share before we open it up to the audience?
Yeah, you talk about an acquisition, a well-timed acquisition. So we buy this music conference and festival that's been at that point happening for 15 years called A3C. It happens every October in 2019. So we bought it with Paul Judge, and really with the same thesis that we have for TGS. What is it like to have music kind of be the thing that has always been the center of that experience, but then also have the tech and film and just like culture broadly participate in the conference. 2019 was amazing. We have been, like many folks, in a hybrid/virtual world over the last 2 years, but we're coming back this year. I'll be back hopefully with good news in the next couple of weeks with our plans. But A3C is coming back, and we're coming back to the version that folks have known and loved, and the platform's getting bigger, right? We'll have more opportunities for it's cool. I mean, if I look back to 2019. Being backstage and watching giants in tech collide with giants in music, and folks really look at one another and say, "Wow, I deeply respect your work, but I would have never been able to, no circumstance that we would have been able to meet." That's what A3C is about, and then honestly, that's what we're trying to do at TGS too.
I love it. I love the last A3C, so I'm looking forward to it coming back. Debica, any questions you want to before we close it out?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much. What a great conversation. I think all of us can agree, right? So we have a few questions in chat, and I know we're also kind of tight on time, but we want to soak up all this amazing information. So one of the questions we have is, what was your journey of validating your idea with your customers? And this was coming to all the speakers, but we're going to ask it to you, Ryan. And did you go through any kind of customer discovery interview phase? Like, what was that like to understand that this is what TGS was going to be about?
And this is always a tough one for me, y'all. I can't say that there was a formal customer discovery process. I mean, we were talking to a lot of folks and again, taking in a lot of feedback, but had a gut feeling about, I mean, I'm fortunate to be in a business where a lot of what we create, it's personal to me, right? And so I was creating as much for myself as I was for everyone else. And so yes and no, but not in the more formal sense that we see that offered and current. I'm a person that believes that there's no good day to start a company. Tomorrow sounds great, right? And so if you've got the idea and the spark, like, do it and respond to the market as it gives you feedback. But like my grandmother used to say, you stare long, you stare wrong. And I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs that never actually get to first base because they're constantly in these, like, I don't even fully understand, go. I mean, it's never going to be perfectly aligned. You're not ever going to have the perfect amount of capital or the best, the perfect team or whatever. Just like go and keep your feet moving. That was our approach. Like we would get feedback, and we made a ton of mistakes. And I'm like a running back with the whole line jumping on me. I'm just trying to keep my feet moving. And that was our approach. So again, I hope that answers the question, but I've never, some of the startup talk that we kind of use within the ecosystem. I don't know. I've never been a huge proponent of a lot of it. I mean, it's constantly just trying to figure out how to get better. That's how I approach it. And so part of that is discovery, but I don't jump in.
I think one thing you pointed out also is that customer discovery is happening all the time. So it is like your feedback from your guest or your member at the DC club, when you were saying that is customer discovery in of itself as you're
Absolutely.
listening, pivoting. One question we had a little bit earlier, and I want to bring it back up, and it was about business partners. You and TK are business partners. You talked about 4 coming down to 2. Christy also talked about that. How important is that relationship? Like how do you manage that? How does that work in terms of every day? Coming from being friends to now business partners, that's a very big part of building a company and finding that right-hand person, I would say.
It's super crucial. I'm in 2 marriages. I'm in one with my partner, my wife, and then I'm in another one with TK. And it's been a journey with he's my best friend in the world. But honestly, if you meet us on a daily basis, we don't engage in this part of our lives as friends, right? I mean, we set that aside early and said, look, there's going to be tough situations. We're not going to agree on things. It's really important from an organizational perspective that you have those tough conversations and do think through those scenarios in advance. So when the tough moments come, you know exactly how you're going to govern yourselves in those conversations. But we really set aside it's a skill set match more than it is a friendship match with us inside of the company. He's got a skill set in finance and accounting and a way of kind of thinking about what we do and frankly keeping the lights on in a way that I don't have. And I do other things, right? And so we try to stay out of each other's swim lanes, but friendship isn't the thing that I lead with when I'm talking to him about TGS. I mean, he was the best man at my wedding. That was my best friend that I have in the world. But when it comes to this, we said early, like I'm willing to go to places to make this successful, and I need to understand that you're willing to go to those same places, and what that might look or feel like when we're in the war. We both have to be prepared for friendship not being the primary thing that we're paying attention to. So it's worked out. It takes work. I mean, TK is a lot of times one of the first people that I talk to in the morning and one of the last people I talk to every single night. And so if for a person, and I will say, venture to even say an investor, that's my simple test. If I look down at my phone when you're calling me and I make the oh no, I never want to talk to you. You got to think critically about whether you want that person in the business day to day. And I'm fortunate to say that when he calls me, I don't know if I smile, but I'll pick it up.
I guess that's good. Well, thank you. If anybody has any more questions for Ryan, I know you have a very tight schedule, so we thank you so much for being here with us. Shall, I'm going to hand it off to you. And as you can close it up with Ryan. And again, thank you for being here. We really, really appreciate it.
Sure. And I thank everyone. I thank our team. I thank our sponsors, our everyone who's involved with Zane's supporters. We appreciate you coming, and we do still apologize for what happened earlier. It was not our fault. We had nothing to do with it. Thank you for sticking with us and coming back. We also want to say applications are now open. So if any founder is interested in our Zane Access program, go to Access Zane at, oh my God, Access.
You're okay. It'll be in your inbox.
It's in your inbox. Anyway, have a great evening, and we hope to see you at part of the program or out in the community at some point. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our Founder Forum.